Okay, so the chapter actually opens up with Adramalik walking straight over to Asta and Lucifero, and basically he just takes his hand and rips Lucifero's heart straight out of his chest, and then we see Lucifero's body disintegrate. Now, here's the thing. We still don't know, as of right now, as of this chapter, whether or not Lucifero is actually dead. Because even though we do see Adramalik take its heart out and basically just peace out, we still never see it be destroyed, and as we already know from Segred, the only way to kill off a high-ranking devil is to destroy their heart. And since his heart was never damaged at any point, we can only assume that he's still alive technically, although whether or not he's going to stay alive actually comes down to what Adramalik plans on doing with it. Now, we find out from Adramalik in this one little bit of dialogue that he has in this chapter, that apparently this entire time, throughout the entire fight, and the reason why he's actually staying on the sideline for it was because he was kind of hoping that these humans would actually be able to defeat Lucifero, and that he'd be able to take his heart. Now, the question does come up, how would he expect that to happen? I mean, we got the King of the Underworld, even if he's only at 50% power. As we can see, it took a lot for them to actually come out with the victory, and it was only because Asta and Leave had the anti-magic perfect double union that they were able to actually scratch out a victory. So it's kind of weird that he'd actually put all his faith in that happening. Now, it could be that maybe he thought after they tire Lucifero out a little bit, he might be able to take him since he only has half his power. That's definitely one possibility. Now, the other possibility, and I think this actually might end up being the more likely one when we get to reveal in possibly the next chapter or the chapter after that, but I think that maybe Adramalik this entire time has been working with someone. Like, say, for example, Beelzebub or Lucifocus, one of the two devils that we've been introduced to, but we never actually got to see in the flesh just yet. Or maybe the Force of Gratis brother that we've been introduced to again, hinted to, but still have no real information on that character. Maybe Adramalik was working with one of those three, and they had always planned on taking out Lucifero, and then somehow, some way, they ended up hearing about this kid who has anti-magic abilities, and thought that this might be their best chance taking out Lucifero if they could manage to get him to manifest in the human world. So they set up the entire thing with the Dark Triad, the ritual and all that. And if they planned that far ahead, it's also possible that they also planned on Lucifero only after the ritual ending, being able to manifest at 50%. That way he's strong enough so that his heart is actually here in the human world so they can take it. But at the same time, he's weak enough that if, Asta and them can't get the job done, they can step in themselves and take care of it. But regardless of whether or not they had this whole thing planned out, we know one thing for sure. Lucifero's heart was definitely the main target for Adramalik, and possibly his partners if he has any. So I'm wondering exactly what the plan is to do with that. Now personally, I think that Adramalik, if he's working alone, his plan is basically just to take Lucifero's heart, gain the power from it somehow, like gain Lucifero's power somehow to boost himself up, and then going forward he's going to be the main antagonist for the series. Also, there's a possibility that, if he is working with someone else, maybe they have some kind of plan to use it to also boost their powers, or, complete some other ritual that's going to unlock some other big bad villain, or some kind of new power boost that's going to definitely be a threat to the world. Either way, we know going forward we're definitely going to have a new major villain coming up, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing how Tabata develops that next arc. Then we cut over to Yuno, who's actually the only one of the four who's actually still up, and he's concerned because even though everyone else is banged up, Nock and Yami are actually definitely in the worst shape out of everyone and actually are on the verge of death. So he actually calls Mimosa over to him by using his star magic to teleport her there, and basically tries to get her to heal them. But because, as we already know, when she tried to heal Asta, she ran out all her mana, she can't do it. So basically they're kind of in a very dire situation right now with no healer there. Not even Gray, who we saw heal Yami prior to this, can't do it anymore because she also ran out of mana. And regardless of what people think about this chapter, this is actually the one moment in the chapter that I've never seen anyone basically badmouth on Twitter today. And basically we get this moment where after Charlotte and Vanessa actually walk over to Yami, see the state he's in, and the two of them start to cry and basically panic, we actually get Charlotte finally admitting to Yami and out loud to everyone else that she is in love with him. Which, of course, because Yami's kind of knocked out, we end up finding out later on in the chapter, near the end of it, that he didn't actually get to hear her say it. But hey, regardless of whether or not he actually heard it, it was still a pretty big deal for this character, and a pretty big jump in character development for her to openly admit to him that she's in love with him. And you know what, that's something you gotta hand to Tabata, regardless of whether or not you like his writing style. One thing this guy actually does do great is basically introducing romance into a story, which is not something that you usually get from like battle manga and Shonen Jump. So the fact he's able to seamlessly do it and basically just actually make it work in the series so well, you gotta hand it over for that. And then we get to the infamous part of the chapter where everyone basically started to lose their minds over, where basically we have Vanessa, who was there panicking over Yami's death. We actually see Rogue on her shoulder basically activate its string magic, or its fate magic, or fate reversal magic, and basically we see it connecting a string over to a pile of trash, or no, a pile of roses or something like that, and out from the pile comes the entire rest of the Black Bull cast, And basically, as soon as they come over there, they force feed Mimosa some of Charmy's magic food. She regains her mana, and then in a very quick shot of panels, we actually get her basically healing up Yami and Nock pretty quickly. Like, the chapter goes over pretty quickly. Like, Tabata basically, you can tell the way Tabata was writing it, he's kind of trying to rush towards the ending of this arc. So yeah, this chapter was definitely very fast paced, and I think it just comes down to Tabata. You know, now that we actually have the chapter out, not just the leaks, but actually the chapter, after reading it, I kind of feel like that Tabata knew that this chapter would not be well regarded by fans. At least over here in the West, you know, it kind of might split the fandom a little bit. So because of that, he just tried to get through it as fast as he could because he needed to do this in order to set up the next thing. But he knew fans weren't going to like it, so he basically just had it be a very quick, fast-paced chapter. And that way, when he starts working on the next chapter, he can basically just focus on the new things he's developing and kind of just put all of this to bed. Anyway, pretty much after that, we go on to the rest of the Black Bulls and Asta being healed up, and pretty much everyone welcoming Nock into the fold officially. And yeah, that's literally where the chapter ends. Now, the biggest mystery for this entire chapter, besides the Addermilk thing, is how did Vanessa's boobs get so much bigger? No, but seriously though, this chapter, I know it's a very divisive chapter. I know on Twitter, you know, the fandom's been arguing back and forth. I even said in my review, or not review, but my video going over the leaks, that I knew this was actually going to be a very divisive chapter, that the fandom's going to be split on it. Like, I get it. I understand why a lot of fans weren't happy with the ending of this chapter because, you know, everyone was kind of hoping for more stakes. I get that. I can understand that. I can kind of agree with that. Even though I personally did dig this chapter and thought it was actually a good ending to the epilogue, or, you know, good epilogue to the arc, I can understand why some fans were upset by that. You know, I'm not going to argue against that. And I can understand why some people were saying that this arc overall wasn't that great. Like, you know, definitely the Elf Resurrection arc was definitely a lot better than this one. I can agree with that. I definitely agree that that's the best arc of Black Clover so far. And personally, I'd really only give this arc, even though I did ultimately enjoy it, I'd only give it as a total, you know, like a 7.5, maybe pushing up to an 8 because of the fight scenes. Because one thing we can all agree on, you know, you can't say anything against a majority of these fight scenes, besides maybe this one because people have been basically up in the air about the Lucifer versus everyone else fight, but every other fight that we've had in this arc has been damn near top tier. But yeah, when it comes down to the writing, I do understand why some people were upset with this arc because a lot of things happened that, you know, you didn't really want to happen. You were kind of hoping for more stakes, more death. I can understand that. Now, here's the one thing though. On people shitting on Black Clover and the arc for basically all the fake out deaths, I do want to call that out because that's kind of something that's been happening forever in battle manga and Shonen Jump. I mean, just look at what happened in Naruto during the best arc of the entire series, the Pain Invasion arc. How many characters died in that arc? And I mean, how many fake out deaths have we had in Bleach and One Piece altogether? I mean, sure, Bleach had a lot of deaths in its final arc, but when it came down to the rest of the series, a majority of the good guys had fake out deaths, but they didn't actually end up dying. And then when it comes down to the complaint that this arc ended in a very happy-go-lucky way for a war arc, which really this wasn't a war arc to begin with, but still, you know, that complaint's out there. I again want to point you to Naruto during the Pain Invasion arc when after everything that happened there, after the entire village being destroyed, it ended with Naruto being thrown up into the air by the entire good of the village and everyone celebrating. How's that really any different from what's going on here? And I mean, again, I can definitely see where a lot of people are complaining when it comes down to the writing for this arc because it definitely wasn't Tabata's best writing. The Elf Resurrection arc was definitely the better one of the two, and I personally would only give this arc, like I said, about a 7.5 to maybe an 8 at the most. But when it comes down to it, I think a lot of the complaints that people have for this arc and, you know, wanting deaths and, you know, the higher stakes and a darker tone, I definitely think it comes down to people being kind of spoiled by Demon Slayer and JJK. Because those two series are definitely a lot darker and, you know, they are actually more willing to kill off characters in those series. But one thing I keep having to reiterate to people is that basically those two series are like the exception, not the rule when it comes to shonen battle manga. But anyway guys, that's pretty much all I had to say about this chapter. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys thought about it and try to keep it civil. But that's pretty much it. Let me know also what you guys think is going to happen next with Addermilk and are you looking forward to the next upcoming arcs. That's it for the video guys, thanks for watching and I'll catch you all next time. Peace.